How are you guys doing? I've been really looking
Good, thank
forward
you.
to speaking with you. I'm sorry that it took so long. So I'm going to want you guys to introduce yourselves, where you live and what you do, just briefly. I'll start with you, Jane, and then we'll go to Mercy.
Thank you so much. I hope you can hear me clearly. I'm Jane Nakasamu, and I'm based in Zambia. I am the founder and current CEO of GreenBelt Energy that focuses on providing access to clean cooking solutions here in Zambia. Awesome to have this conversation this evening.
Great. Mercy?
Hi everyone. Yeah, my name is Mercy Kyalo, based in Kenya. I'm the founder and CEO of Feion Green Ventures Limited, a company that is dedicated to revolutionize how clean cooking is done in schools and institutions here in Kenya and in Africa at large.
Amazing. So this is a conversation with CEOs, in case you guys are not aware. Every one of us here is a CEO. We run our own project. So I want you to dive more into the project that we do. I'll start with you, Jane. What do you mean by clean cooking? What is it exactly that you do? And within Zambia, the geography and the market that you serve?
Thank you so much for that. Well, my focus is on providing biogas as a cooking solution. And this has been done mainly because of our societies in Zambia. A good number of our societies are livestock farming societies. That means that people have animals at home, they keep poultry, they keep chickens, they keep cows, they keep goats. So this drove me to sort of like build a solution around that. I think when I discovered biogas the first time, I was really excited because we had this problem with people not being able to use clean cooking solutions, and then coming to find out that you can actually turn that waste into a clean cooking solution for me was pretty remarkable. I think that's when I started my journey of really now trying to set up systems for farmers, set up systems for households, for communities, where they can turn this waste into biogas for cooking and basically have within their home their own energy. That's what we do.
That is completely amazing. And it's really great to hear about your journey and the people that you serve. So Mercy, I want you to do the same thing, to tell me what you do, which markets you serve within Kenya. I know, unlike in Zambia and Botswana, there's a lot of young people tackling clean cooking in Kenya, different types from biogas to solid biomass. So I want you to speak to your approach to clean cooking.
Cool. Yeah, you're very right that here in Kenya, we are a community of young people trying to solve this problem. Because one thing is, just like any other African country, then we see most households, most institutions still use firewood for cooking, yeah? For us at Feion Green Ventures, we are tackling this by providing electric cookers, cookers that can leverage both main grid electricity and solar power. Because you realize that here in Kenya, we have over 30,000 schools. We are talking of primary and secondary schools. And well, 90% or more than 90% of these schools to date still use firewood. And then you realize if it's one school is using firewood, and for instance, they have over 2,000 children that they have to serve every day, then you can imagine the magnitude of deforestation that is happening within the country. So why we choose to go with the electric cooking is studies have told us that, well, for households, it's still proven that cooking with electricity so far is actually cheaper than doing LPG, than doing firewood. So we felt like it's the same thing. It's just that now there's that mentality among people that electricity will always be expensive, but the reality is it's actually not. It's very cost effective. For us, our cooker, we are seeing that we did a pilot for as a 55-liter and a 8-liter electric cooker. And we saw the cost savings that are coming with this are more than 50%. I mean, when you compare this and the cost of firewood and that cost of LPG, then for sure, that's the reason why we choose to go with the solution. And then electricity is considered novel. You know, when even in your home, when you cook with electricity, then, well, you're up there. Yeah, that's the mentality we have here. So when you're doing electricity, it's novel in itself. The kitchen looks better because, well, our cooker is stainless steel, very shiny, you know, looking good. So you can imagine that in school kitchens compared to what they already have that is already smoky. Well, that's the reason why we choose to go with electricity. And the reason to pick the market as schools is because households have so much, like they have alternative. They're spoiled for choices. But for schools and larger institutions, they're not spoiled for choices. And that's the reason why we're there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting. I was going to say my perspective on electricity is even though we grew up with it, it was always around it being expensive, and then we are not allowed to boil water with electricity. There was very limited things we could do with it so that it doesn't run out fast. But yeah, it's very important because speaking of solar, then that could be a different approach. So my question, ladies, was going to be, why tackle clean cooking? From all the metrics, all the data that we see, not a lot of funding go to this. Not a lot of us startups are supported in a meaningful way. I mean, you have players like Burn, like BioLite. I remember being at the Youth Energy Summit with you, Jane. I don't know if me or Mercy, of course, you were there as well. You pitched and you won. But even the Clean Cooking Alliance stand, is that what they were called? The little things they had, yeah, stand. It was BioLite and it was Burn, the stoves, and thinking we need not only to be like last mile distributors of these projects, but we need to manufacture in our own communities. We need to generate the fuel in our own communities and create employment. And I could know better what works in Botswana, Jane in Zambia, and you in Kenya. But why tackle clean cooking when, I guess I'm also always asking myself that, when there's so much that you could tackle. Like, for example, mini grids and upgrades that are being sponsored so much and you stand a better chance. Why clean cooking of all that you could have tackled? I'll start with you, Jane.
Yeah, thanks. It's a really good question because I think even as a business person, you always need to understand why you're in a space for you to stick to it. And for me, why I'm tackling clean cooking is that, it's really interesting. The statistics that you brought up, it shows you to say that, is clean cooking a profitable industry? That's one question that we can ask. I remember being in a meeting where they were listing some of the most profitable industries, and clean cooking was not in the top 10. I think it found itself in number 19 or something like that. I feel the reason why I'm tackling clean cooking is really because of the impact. Yes, clean cooking may not be the most profitable space to be in. If you're making money at present, probably you're not making as much as other industries and other technologies, and probably even in the investors are not interested as much because it's maybe not the most profitable. But as far as impact goes, and this is my opinion, I feel clean cooking has the most impact. I feel that because when you give someone a clean cooking solution, you're changing their lives. People need to cook and eat about 3 times a day. That's the most energy that they need, basically, for them to live. I mean, you go to a rural household and they may not have electricity, but they would definitely have a cooking method. Everybody has to cook, everybody has to eat. And the fact that they are using these non-clean cooking solutions or non-clean cooking technologies, it means that their health is being impacted, their livelihoods are being impacted. Girls are not able to, go to school because they have to spend their whole day collecting firewood in the forest, coming back home, cooking, doing all these household chores. So when you give them a clean cooking solution, you're not just giving them a technology, you're changing their lives. You're enabling them to be healthy, to be able to, go to school, run a business, do all these other things. You're opening up their lives. And for me, that's the impact. I believe that, you know, if really, truly, financial rewards would follow things that are really changing people's lives and adding benefit to society, or rather, if financial rewards would follow value, I feel clean cooking would be the most profitable business because it's creating so much immense value that unfortunately is not being correctly rewarded.
I completely agree. What about you, Mercy? What is your reason for tackling clean cooking?
One, I'd like to acknowledge what Jane said. Actually, that's the real reason. Like, if we were well to consider the financial impact, then ideally we wouldn't be here. Like, wouldn't be venturing into this. But the number one reason is the fact that clean cooking impacts so many people. And I'm happy that in this conversation, not to seem like I'm gender biased, but we are ladies, I do believe that at least for us while growing up, you know, kitchen was always almost where we saw our mothers in almost all the time, you know. And if they're having to light up the firewood fire or whatever, then you'd see them like literally they're crying, you know. So when you figure that out and you're like, you're the kid, and for me, the firstborn girl, and you're still the one who has to go and fetch firewood to help your mom, you think about it and you're like, then that's the main driving factor. But come to think about this also, that I feel is something that keeps motivating me all the time. Right now, the conversation is going around about clean cooking.
Yeah.
It's just that people realized it very late that actually clean cooking, cooking is it's killing many people that we have thought before, yeah. And the fact that that one has come, then the drive is there. So we are seeing a market. We are seeing a market for what you're doing. I'm looking at what I'm doing currently in Kenya, clean cooking, electric cooking for schools, yeah. It's for schools, and I'm seeing already that these schools, there's a government order telling them that in the next, I think 4 or 5 years, they shouldn't be using firewood. I'm already seeing that in that, I'm able to drive sales. So in the long run, right now, it may not seem because, well, the society is reluctant to drop the norm of cooking with firewood. No firewood has cooked for the longest time possible. The society is now breaking that norm, and that in itself is a motivating factor. And well, I compounded with the impact thing, you're good to go. Yeah.
Yeah, truly, I agree. And also, I'm always thinking, you know, when they say investors shy away from investing in clean cooking, even at the high level, say the Clean Cooking Alliance does not get as much funding as other organizations do. I'm always wondering why, because even when we're talking of mini grids, it's always to rural areas, right? It's to these people who we are also trying to impact. Say they set up this, of course, people still have to pay, right, for that technology, somehow pay to connect electricity. Where do they get money? Why do they put so much faith in that, other than what we could do with cook stoves, with biogas, with biomass fuel? And for me, it never really makes sense. But now I want to transition the conversation to just the challenges and experiences that you have come across as business owners, not even just like in clean cooking, just like as a young person trying to run a business. I'll start and speak for myself. There's red tape everywhere, and I won't just attribute it to me and what I'm trying to do, but there's just red tape even in young people trying to start businesses and in access to funding, as well as just when you're doing something that is in Botswana is sort of a novelty. Like I said, in Kenya, the market is quite ripe, and I believe in Zambia as well. So it's quite a novelty. So you have to break that barrier. It's both an advantage and a disadvantage. So as a person just trying to start and grow a business, those are the challenges I've faced. But what about you, Jane? What challenges have you faced trying to run your own thing, not trying to be employed, but trying to create employment? It sounds so good when you started, huh? Like you're going to create employment, you're going to impact, and that the day-to-day is just harrowing.
Yeah, no, I feel like people have romanticized entrepreneurship. I think it's because we've grown up in an age where we've seen these tech booms. We've seen the big tech giants of our time. getting these billion-dollar investments, and it happened so fast. Today you're hearing of this new innovation, and it's raised $10 million, and it's so fun and amazing to hear about and read about. But then I guess I've come to realize and understand that, it's one world, but we live in different realities, unfortunately. I feel that maybe, if I was in a different country, things would have been different in a different continent. Why? Because they have created systems that are very deliberate at supporting enterprises, because they understand the value. I mean, they know that, for example, Facebook drives billions of dollars into the US economy. They know the impact of, of all these different companies. Therefore, they've created systems that support such companies, support such innovations. Unfortunately, not always the case in our continent, and specifically in my country, where I have not seen as much support as I would appreciate, especially from government, from other organizations. And it makes it difficult for you as a business, because you see the bigger companies being favored. They are getting all these benefits, all these incentives, all these, because they're bigger, and they're being, encouraged to invest because they've got all this money. But as a local enterprise, you are not necessarily being supported as much, given access to the same opportunities. And that is just not only difficult, like in terms of raising funding, but also I think it also makes you a bit demoralized sometimes, because then you're fighting on different angles. I think there's a mental health aspect of it, which I think this year I have really come to realize, talking to other entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
I think when I spoke to Granny, the time we spoke about mental health, and we said,
Yeah.
dude, you need to take care of your health, your mental health, because you're gonna be stressed. You're gonna be dealing with things like, company debt. How do you handle it? How do you handle the
Family
stress of knowing that,
and all of that.
you have these bills to pay as an organization, as a company, and you're not getting the, the orders that you need? So there's all those factors, really. But I mean, we're still here. So
Yeah.
at the end of the day, you're driven by so much faith in your enterprise and the impact that it can make, that I believe that that is more important than even the challenges that you're facing. Yeah.
Yeah. What about you, Messi? I would say, to your point about how stressful it can be, but I was saying to my mentor yesterday that I grew up, even when I was in school, even when I was studying in the US, with this nagging feeling like I could be doing something, just never being satisfied, and I could never really understand it. Like I could be doing more instead of just going to work and just the traditional route that we're supposed to follow. And I was like, it's been 2 years now since I've had that feeling ever. And yet it's not like I have a lot of money. It's not like I'm successful and flourishing and all these things but it's been 2 years since I've had that feeling, that nagging feeling like I'm supposed to be doing something. It's supposed to be. I was telling her, so that's how I know I'm on the right path. So Messi, what about you? What challenges in Kenya are you facing as a young entrepreneur? Not necessarily just in clean cooking. And what other young people are facing as well in Kenya?
Yeah, well, I think one thing, well, I don't know whether I believe it's a stereotype that young people are starting businesses and raising funds for money. Like they do not have a plan for their future. So that's something that I've faced constantly when I'm trying to talk to potential funders, because they tend to think that since we are young people, we are not serious about what we are doing. Like, for lack of a better word, we seem not to be serious. But the truth is, we have so much drive within us that we want to unleash. We just need the support. Beyond just access to funding and the already existing stereotype, especially here in Kenya, the other thing we're facing is that when people see you as a young person trying to grow something, especially in my case where I still haven't set my own workshop, I am relying on a production partner to produce all these things. And because they see a young person, the kind of attention they will pay to the the assignment we've given them is limited. And that's my number one challenge. Because I tend to believe if for instance, they could relate with me as a fellow, well, as an entrepreneur, without putting the label young on my face or on me, they would be driving their assignments a bit better and probably helping us also meet the deadlines that we have with potential funders, you know. That's a reason, that's a challenge that I feel I have faced just by the mere fact that I am young. And then the other second thing that I feel I have faced, though, when I evaluate these things, I'm saying it's because we are facing this challenge twice. We are young and we are ladies, you know? Yeah, so when you think about it, you're like, wow, okay. So these are two things that already there's some sort of a stereotype already existing in the market. And therefore going out there is gonna be a big challenge. So I had a situation the other day when I saw this big personnel who saw me somewhere pitching the GCO, and they tried to go back to whoever is doing our GCO so that they could get the same one, like in what I would say quote unquote stealing the idea. Yeah. But you see, because I think I am young, I do not know what the procedure, so that there's something called patenting. They think I do not know about intellectual property and all this. Yet I know all these things. I know there's something that exists that it's called an NDA, that before I give my production partner, they got to sign. So even if they get there and try to lure the production partner, I can't take legal issue against them. So they think we don't have these things. And what I feel we should do as young people trying to do business, especially in clean cooking, where it's quite technical, yeah? It's quite technical, especially look at us, look at Jane doing biogas, and then look at us here trying to do electric cooking. Who'd ever think like, well, young people and women and young girls, well, let's call ourselves girls, could be here trying to do something that, well, it's quite technical. There's a lot of engineering that goes into it. And engineering in itself is not, well, the society thinks, because okay, yeah, the society thinks it's not a ladies thing, you know. So already by that, if we just need a community where we uplift each other. And I'm really grateful for what the Clean Cooking Alliance has done with the Women in Clean Cooking Mentorship Program. I got myself, I was picked for this cohort, and I was paired up with a mentor called Dorothy, who's in the clean cooking sector. She's facing the same exact challenges that I'm facing as a woman, you know? Well, she doesn't know what she had going through as young people, but at least in that section as a young woman, she's able to help me navigate the challenges I'll face as a young person. Yeah, because she was there at some time. Yeah, and then she'll help me on the other side. So I feel like the challenges are there. It's not easy, but yeah, what can we do? I mean, we just have to keep pushing.
We have to keep on keeping on. I'm going to lean on the point that you made about being a woman and bring up the Student Energy Summit. Oh my goodness. I feel like the reason why men succeed more in business, and allow me to say this, is because even when they're wrong, they are so loud. And when we're right, we shy away and we keep going, that guy was full of shit. Oh my goodness.
That's true.
Oh my goodness. But he was full of shit loudly, proudly, right? And I feel like men have that, right? And at some point, I convinced myself he's going to go up there and kill it. There's no way he's making this much noise and he's going to fumble the bag. But he fumbled the bag so badly. And what do you think it is about us women, where even when we're right and we know we're right and we should be superimposing our opinion because we're right? I found myself in that room before we even got to pitching, when I was like going a bit back and forth with him, you remember? And I was getting irritated and he was just saying, go get a soap, give it to her, like with that tone, with that accent that he was doing. And I found myself pushing it, and then everybody else is quiet. And then it took me back to like a nickname I was given, like there's this woman organization is called Emamba said it means women stand up, so they do feminist stuff. And I remember people used to call me that behind my back, and I found out just because I was always so assertive. And then, like, in that moment, I felt like I was being too, and everybody else was just calm and like sweet, right? And then in my head, I was like, there you go again. Still, right? Like, there you go again, just like coming with that energy when everybody's cool. So I had to like try to keep quiet, but he was wrong. And he was so adamantly wrong. And yet we let him get away with it. Why do you think that is? I'll start with you, Jane.
It's interesting you bring this example because I also try and go back to that moment. And I try and imagine to say, had we been more assertive, who knows what the outcome would have been? Possibly we would have been able to get maybe some form of seed fund or what. So it makes me realize to say, okay, there's always going to be that moment when you make a mistake, but then let that moment be a learning opportunity for you and for us. And I think for me, I was not assertive in that. I was just being diplomatic as I usually am and just letting things slide. But then I told myself to say no. There's times for diplomacy, but there's times that you're going to have to be assertive because society is not always going to accept your idea. It's not always going to accept you. There's going to be moments where it's not even about your idea. It's you. You're black. You're a woman. You're young. No, So just because of that, should you let that inhibit you rather from achieving your goal? I don't think so. I feel that we have really accepted the brands that have been put on us. We've really accepted, like you said, you accepted that nickname that you are given. And even for me, I can trace so many moments that I've accepted, let's say where I grew up from, just because I come from maybe my point that I was driving towards that we've accepted the brands that society has given us. I remember the Student Energy Summit. We had a lady, I've forgotten her name, but she recently had a birthday 2 days ago, and I was wishing her happy birthday on LinkedIn. And she talked about how, she comes from a society and a background of being, an ex-slave, an ex, how her family was sold from Africa, for instance, and even her surname is not her surname, it's a brand that had been given to her by the slave owner that bought her family. And, she had two choices, either to accept that being oppressed, right? And there's so many levels, right? She's dealing with that colonial kind of oppression. But we, as young women from Africa, are dealing with an economic oppression. And because we're going into this business space, there's already companies in this space. There's already companies that are selling cooking, technologies that we would have to deal with. So we need to learn now how to be assertive, I think we need to be more like Granny. We need to learn how to stand our ground. And maybe if we all stood together, we would have been able to, deal with that. So I guess, we can't change what happened then. But what we can do is that from today, let's work together. Let's be more assertive. Let's support one another. And let's be honest, and communicate and say, guys, I know where this is heading. This is where this is going. It's best we do this. And yeah, I think the best way is that going forward, let's really stand our ground and not accept the brands that society wants to give us because of who we are, Yeah.
Yeah, okay. That's really a great answer. Mercy, I was going to say briefly because I want us to wrap up. I was going to say, tell me what you were feeling as you were standing next to that guy, because I met you at the Youth Energy Summit and I thought your presentation was flawless. You were sure, even the financials, you were really presenting or pitching something that you've had intimate knowledge of. Even at the Student Energy Summit, when you were standing on that podium, when you were speaking, Jane and I and some other girl who were snapping our fingers like, yeah, this is so good. And yet, and then there comes along the dude. So tell me what was going through your mind at that moment, briefly, knowing that we allowed him to do that. Just to be very brief, but tell me what you were thinking.
Well, one thing, I think whoever took a video from the front literally noticed the change in my facials. Immediately. Immediately the mic was picked from me. And then he spoke and I realized the first sentence was already wrong.
Yeah.
So I was like, wait, that's not what we agreed. So ideally what was going in my mind was I felt disappointed. I felt I gave in so fast to allow him to accompany me. And I felt I didn't stand with my no. So I was mad at myself first before I got mad at him, you know? I was like, wait, no, I should have said my no and meet the no and leave the no and walk the no, you know?
Yeah.
Because if I did that, I'm sure presentation was, well, among somewhere good, like, you
Yeah.
know, would
Yeah.
have been mentioned as the top, among the top 3,
The top
or
3.
even walk away with the prize.
Yeah, I agree. And I remember Jane and I just had,
So I really felt nice. It felt bad.
yeah, Jane and I kept
Yeah, and then you would
saying,
feel
it's his
like
fault.
people
It's his
coming
fault.
up towards me and asking, yeah, you know, it came to me and asked me whether that was my business partner and telling me that I should figure out how I'm going to check him off my team. And I'm like, wait, so it's not only me, it's not only Granny, it's not
Yeah.
Jane in my team who noticed
Yeah.
this.
Oh
I
my
was like,
gosh,
what?
that's so
I was like,
funny.
We kept
imagine they
seeing him
came up and
moving.
they were like, Matthew, who's that? That's not supposed to be in your team. Take him off. I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yes.
I
Totally.
clearly
Like I said, Jane and I kept just looking at him when he was there, now looking at us, and he was shy, and we were like, it's his fault. It's his fault. Okay, Jane, you raised your hand. Go ahead.
Yeah, and you know, it's just made me realize something that that Mercy has said. We feel sometimes that we are not good enough, which is a big problem. We feel that we're not smart enough. We feel that we are not, strong enough. We feel that we have not that much experience when we are more than enough. At that moment, Mercy was 100% of what we needed.
Yeah.
But for some reason, we were convinced that we needed someone who has no idea, no experience, So even as we are running our businesses, let's not feel inferior. Even when we're in a room with, I don't know, people who've got 10 years of experience or whatever, our passion, trust me, is more than 50 years of experience. I just wanted to add that.
Yeah, truly, I agree. So we're going to wrap this up. So in a minute each, if you could manage that, just tell me what you think the business we're in, what it would look like 10 years from now, and what you want your role to be, and what do you want your business to look like 10 years from now. I know it's very hard to think that low, but we have to, because we're building our businesses for longevity. So what do you envision the clean cooking space being like in Africa, and what do you want your role to be in it? So Mercy, you can start. Just in a minute, please.
Okay, yeah. My vision is just one, very simple and clear, that I look forward to that time when you'll walk into every household, every institution, and not find firewood or charcoal.
Yeah.
And that's where we are headed to. And that's the role we're going to play in giving these solutions that are existing here. I think we will have diversified. I envision that our businesses will be the one-stop shop for any type of clean cooking solution that you may need in Africa. Yeah.
Okay. That's amazing. What about you, Jane? What do you envision 10 years from now?
I envision that we have a seat at the table. I think especially after our experience at SCS, I just envision that when they're naming the top 10 companies, we will be there, And I don't mean just in Africa, I mean globally. When they're talking about clean cooking, they can't have the conversation without you in the room. I just believe that.
Really, I would echo the same sentiments that I want us to be running profitable businesses and be innovating even on how we reach the people we really want to serve. If we don't want to find any polluting fuel in any household, that means finding a way to actually reach even those hard to reach communities. And I wish that for all of us, that in 10 years we'll be at the top of our game, that all three of us will be in the UN. Do you understand? Like making decisions at the UN Energy, and that we'll be overdoing what Damilola is doing. Bless her, she's doing great work, but that we are the next that and even more. And that even on the ground, our businesses will be profitable and creating jobs. I prophesy that for all of us. And I know it'll come to pass. Thank you so much, ladies.
Amen.
Thank you so much for the time.
Yeah.
I really look forward to editing this and then putting it out. I really appreciate your time. I really had a good time. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Have a good time.
Good night. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Good night.